What I've been doing is experimenting with text to music. The reason that I chose these two engines that I've been using, it's Suno and Udio, is because they're the ones that the recording industry
have blessed.
Have sued.
Oh, sued. Okay. Well, don't get us sued here in the process.
Well, hi, and welcome to GeekWire. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop.
And I'm GeekWire co-founder John Cook.
And joining us here for a special appearance is
Cameo.
GeekWire editor Taylor Soper. It's great to have you here, Taylor.
Good to be back.
I had to pull the two of you in because I have been having fun with something that John and I have been joking about for months now related to our My AI segment. Every time we do the segment, which is all about the interesting technology that I have been trying in the realm of AI. And then John makes fun of it and says he'd never do it. So that's sort of the premise of the My AI segment. But these tools that are used to accelerate your work, improve your productivity, and little tips and tricks, things like the Copilot sidebar or the way that I've been using Gemini in my Gmail for Google Apps or Google Workspace, those kinds of things, just handy things. So every time I ask John to do the jingle, the My
AI?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So can we do better than that? That's the premise of this segment?
Precisely. And what I've been doing is experimenting with text to music. So in many cases, obviously, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, the whole premise is it's text to images or more commonly text to text. You ask a question and it responds with text. So there are a number of AI music generators out there, and there are two that I've been trying, and I'll tell you.
So this is My AI.
This is My AI. This whole show is going to be My AI. So I've come up with a bunch of different musical numbers based on me asking these engines. I've asked them to come up with a jingle for My AI. And the only command that I gave them was come up with a jingle for My AI, a regular segment of the GeekWire podcast. That is all I said. And the types of things that come back, you can change the genre. You can ask it to do it in certain ways. And I can get into some of the licensing problems that have come up with this, because the reason that I chose these two engines that I've been using, it's Suno and Udio. Udio is kind of a clever name.
Give us a spelling on these.
Yeah, so Suno is S-U-N-O, and Udio is like audio without the A, so it's really clever. So when they do their socials, it's at Udio, and it looks like audio.
So
very,
cool.
Very clever. And the reason I chose these two is because they're the ones that the recording industry
have blessed.
Have sued.
Oh, sued. Okay. Well, don't get us sued here in the process.
Well, I figure they're still active. You can still use them. So
yeah.
Also not to prejudice you, but I have one that's a favorite of mine, but I'm not going to tell you which one it is. So my whole thing on this is going to be playing these for you and then getting your reactions. And my hope is that we can settle by the end of this podcast on which jingle we might use, which lyrics we might use for the actual regular segment.
Now, will you tell us which tool we're using for each jingle?
Sure. And I've, in many cases...
And did you have a favorite amongst the tools? Audio or
Udio or Suno?
Or Suno, yeah.
Well, both of them were very good, actually. And one of my favorites is from Suno and another one is from Udio.
Okay.
So it was kind of comparable. Have you played around with these at all?
Not much, but there's been a lot of noise about them in the music industry and for podcasts too. So I'm excited to hear what you came up with, or at least the robot came up with.
Yes. Okay. All right. So that's our build-up. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll listen to some of my favorites. And then I thought later on, maybe you guys could give some text to audio prompts and we can see what they come up with, because it's very quick. It's very quick in terms of how they come up with it.
Sounds fun.
You're listening to GeekWire, and we will be right back.
Technology moves fast. I need to move faster. WGU's competency-based education puts me in control of how fast I move through my IT degree program. I can accelerate my program by applying what I already know to my courses and focusing on the things I need to learn. Earn a respected accredited degree that propels your career in the IT field. Learn more at wgu.edu/IT certs included.
All right, so let's listen to this one. I'm gonna fast forward.
Yeah, it's very craft work or Pet Shop Boys or, I don't know what's going on here. It's
My AI, look what's new. My AI, here to stay. My AI, leading the way. Tune in to GeekWire. It's my AI day.
Tune in to GeekWire. It's my AI day.
I couldn't quite follow that. It was a little creepy when it was join the crew. I was
Yeah, it's
like,
like,
this
whoa.
what sort of fascist thing is going on here?
This to me was the most robotic of all of the ones that
it
came out with.
definitely has a Kraftwerk feel.
Kraftwerk,
I'm sure you're
okay.
familiar with the German
Oh,
band
that's
Kraftwerk.
right. Yes,
Yes,
that's actually one of your favorites.
I
right?
like Kraftwerk.
Okay, all right.
And in terms
Yeah.
of the lyrics, you didn't give them lyrics.
That was the thing that probably amazed me the most, was the fact that they came up with the lyrics and they matched it to the music.
Do you think it was scraping versions of our podcast to pull data from our podcast to understand what the podcast was about?
I don't think so. I think that the name of the podcast, the fact that it was GeekWire Podcast and My AI
They
was...
inferred that it was a tech-oriented
Yes,
thing. Okay.
yes. All right, so that one was called My AI Groove. That was from Udio, so that's one option.
This is fun.
This is from Suno.
In a world of code
Okay, and two notes. I can already tell this is a little more modern, a little more Beyonce style.
I actually... Okay, there's a different artist that I think this is modeled after.
Okay,
but-
well, I only heard two notes,
Okay,
so
all
let
right,
me-
here we go.
In a world of code and screens, where tech is more than just a dream. My AI, my AI.
God.
The future's here, it's in the sky.
Oh, it's definitely Taylor Swift, right?
I don't
You don't think so?
That's not how I'm hearing it.
Someone modern? What are you thinking about?
So this is the interlude here.
Okay.
All right, and then I actually think it goes out from there. So
Okay. Not as many lyrics in this one.
No, I actually like this one a lot.
And it's got a little bit of a
I think
salsa kind of Latino flair.
maybe I hear it as Ariana Grande.
Okay, and I'm not as familiar with her
Yeah.
as an artist, but
Yeah, I've got a 13-year-old
okay.
daughter.
Yes.
All right, it's Todd from the future here. In the interest of maintaining credibility in my own household, I want to acknowledge that I'm mispronouncing Ariana Grande's first name here. So,
Yeah.
do you hear Ariana Grande in
A
there?
little bit. I feel like I'm at a club.
Yes.
In Miami. hot heat.
So the interesting thing about Suno, and that was from Suno, is they would, and actually both of them give you two different versions. But in the case of Suno, what they would do is give you the same lyrics for two different tunes or two different variations of the tune. So here's another variation of that tune.
In a world of code and screens, where tech is more than just a dream. My AI, my AI. The future's here, it's in the sky. My AI, my AI. Tech that makes us reach so high.
All right, so you get the
Tech
flavor
that
of that.
makes us feel so high.
Reach so high.
Reach so high.
Yes.
I don't know about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same words, but just, yeah, it's got a little bit of a Kids Bop feel to me.
Yeah, it's a little too kiddie.
Okay, here's another one. This is going back to Udio.
Tune in. GeekWire. Let's explore. The Wire. Tech. Talking. A rockin'. It's what you deserve.
I do not like that one. That was
a little weird.
bad.
Todd was
Okay.
bopping his head to that one.
Yeah, that's not my
It
style.
feels like more of a Saturday Night Live skit, frankly, a little bit. Okay, let's see. Here's another one. This is also from Udio.
Tech world buzzing, everybody. Stay tuned in, day or night. GeekWire's insight, always right. My AI, tell me more. GeekWire's voice, takes a
GeekWire's voice, Tex Allure.
This is Udio again.
Yeah.
Futures bright.
What genre is this? Is this just rock?
Every update.
I was trying to place it. I first was gonna.
Here, I'll turn this down.
Keep you stoned?
I'll have to look up the lyrics. I actually don't think that's what it said.
Picking up all these cannabis references.
Okay, I went back after we recorded and looked at the lyrics. The phrase was keep you stunned, STUNNED. All right. Not you don't like that one?
That just doesn't fit the vibe I feel like we're going for this specific ask.
That's very well put. Okay.
Yeah, that's more in my genre of music.
Okay.
I'm kind of like in the Udio style a little bit.
Okay.
I like the more lyric heavy just because it's pretty funny.
Okay. Well, here's the one, John, that I thought you would like a lot.
I'm liking the first one the best in terms of my choices so
Okay.
far.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but
let's listen to this one now.
Just talking about my AI.
because you know my karaoke song.
Geek news, set your mind afly.
This is ironic.
Join us on this wild ride, where tech and truth collide.
So good.
From the latest in machines to the code that paints our dreams, we're breaking down the fights, exploring all the sights in a world that's so pristine, where the future's evergreen. Talking about my AI.
And it goes on.
I like this. Well, it's obviously in the style of Merle Haggard, right?
Yeah, it's a little Merle Haggard, and you can hear a little bit of Willie. in
Little
there.
Willie, yeah.
Yeah, Willie
I mean,
and
I
Merle.
don't think it's maybe the direction for a tech-oriented podcast, but it's quite funny. And the lyrics were pretty good.
Yeah, I would say of all
Best-
of those,
best lyrics.
I would say that's the most sophisticated lyrics. In fact, let me call
Where
up
was
those
it? Was it
lyrics.
Truth and something collide?
Where tech and truth collide.
Where tech and truth collide. That's a great line.
Talking about my AI, geek news, set your mind to fly. Join us on this wild ride where tech and truth collide. From the latest in machines, I actually thought this next one was the best line of the entire thing.
Yeah.
To the code that paints our dreams. We're breaking down
Powerful.
the bytes, exploring all the sights in a world that's so pristine where the future's evergreen. I thought that was by far the most sophisticated of all the lyrics.
And to build on that, just the combination of the lyrics, the music just seemed to flow where I didn't think that was AI. Well, the
Yes.
other ones seem a little bit like cringy, like, oh, this was more like robot made this. This one you could have mistaken for a real song.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I got to say, I walked away from this going like, now I understand why musicians feel a little bit threatened by this. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, because certainly a human musician, a human songwriter, and somebody who's coming up with actual compositions would do something that was unique to them and meaningful to the audience potentially, and much more from a human place. Yet this sounds professional. This was something that, to your point, Taylor, I could imagine somebody standing on stage and crooning, So I don't know where that leaves you.
So what can you do with this after can you actually put this into our podcast and make it a component of it?
I believe so. Okay, here is an excerpt from Udio's FAQ as an example on the question of whether the content that's generated using Udio can be used for commercial purposes. Quote, yes, as long as the content does not contain copyrighted material that you do not own or have explicit permission to use, and as long as you properly indicate that the content was generated using Udio, end quote. Of course, this raises some larger legal issues that we'll get into later.
So it's like a free license, or what's the business model of these companies?
So I signed up for a 1-week trial of Udio, and after that, then the pricing kicks in. So for the standard version of Udio, it's $10 a month. For the Pro, with the most amount of generations, special features, early access, it's $30 a month. This is something that you could potentially use. In terms of licensing, my understanding is, yes, you can use this in something like our podcast. And that is where the RIAA, the Recording Industry Association of America, you could see where they would have a problem with this.
It completely bypasses their members who probably would want to create a jingle for our podcast.
And the point is, as we've been talking about, it sounds like it's certainly inspired, if not trained, on the work of professional musicians. So you can see where there would be real questions about the legitimacy of the origins and the output. This is from the RIAA's complaints against Udio and Suno. Quote, building and operating these services requires at the outset copying and ingesting massive amounts of data to train a software model to generate outputs. For these services, this process involved copying decades worth of the world's most popular sound recordings and then ingesting those copies to generate outputs that imitate the qualities of genuine human sound recordings. Continuing with the RIAA's complaint, quote, when those who develop such services steal copyrighted sound recordings, the service's synthetic musical outputs could saturate the market with machine-generated content that will directly compete with, cheapen, and ultimately drown out the genuine sound recordings on which the services were built. Suno's response reads in part, quote, like a human musician, Suno did not develop its capabilities in a vacuum. It is the product of extensive analysis and study of the building blocks of music, what various genres and styles sound like, how songs in those genres and styles are harmonized and structured, the characteristic timbres of the instruments and vocalizations in those genres and styles, and so on. The recognizable sounds of opera or jazz or rap music are not something that anyone owns. Our intellectual property laws have always been carefully calibrated to avoid allowing anyone to monopolize a form of artistic expression, whether a sonnet or a pop song. IP rights can attach to a particular recorded rendition of a song in one of those genres or styles, but not to the genre or style itself, end quote. And again, that is part of Suno's response to the RIAA lawsuit, and Udio's response offers many of the same themes.
It's interesting listening to this and listening to how they work in the context of these text-based chatbots and the differences and similarities, but the common thread of asking the machine to produce something and where is it pulling that from. And as journalists, I think we are more sensitive to the text-based. You see the lawsuit between OpenAI, Microsoft, and New York Times. It's just interesting seeing this pattern play out with different types of content. And I don't think we're at the point where those text-based models are so good at producing a news story. But in this case, it seems like the path to producing a song is much more seamless.
I think you're right. And maybe that is, to your point, our bias. As journalists, we would look at an AI-generated story and go, that sucks. I'm sure there's a chance that a professional musician would listen to one of these songs and go, those joker journalists shouldn't be impressed by that.
Yeah, we really needed somebody from Pearl Jam in here with us to critique this.
But it's a really good point, Taylor. This seems much closer to human-level production than a lot of the crap that we read on websites that's generated by AI, to the untrained ear, at least.
Did you put genres in to define this? Obviously you did with the more country.
I did.
I would love
to
experiment
with
let's make ourselves a little more modern, a little hip. So I was trying to find like music that my son is listening to, my 14-year-old son, and see what it would do with that.
Okay, let's do that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire, and we will be right back. It is an all my AI episode of the GeekWire podcast this week. We are experimenting with 2 text-to-music generators, Suno and Udio, and John just had a great idea.
Well, my 14-year-old son is really into music, and I think it'll be interesting to hear. Taylor probably knows some of the music that, since he's on the younger side, that he's into. So, like, can you do it like in hip-hop style, or Kendrick Lamar, or A$AP Rocky, or... Taylor, who else is in this genre that the kids are listening to these days?
Those are on point. I think Kendrick Lamar.
I'm typing right.
Kendrick Lamar, A$AP Rocky. I think this is the best artist that my son's listening to these days. And he's kind of growing out of it. But Mac Miller.
Yeah, rest in peace. And
Rest
he's a
in
legend.
peace.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's from the great city of Pittsburgh, which we have fond memories of.
Okay, so I'm typing into Udio. Write a jingle for the segment My AI on the GeekWire podcast in the style of Mac Miller. And based on my past experience, what it's going to do is come back and say, we can't do that, but we can do it in this type of genre or this type of mood, basically. So let's see what it says. Okay, artist replaced. We do not generate artist likeness without permission. Replacing Mac Miller with male vocalist, pop rap, East Coast hip hop, abstract hip hop, cloud rap.
Okay.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
that's how I would describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's already starting to generate one.
Okay.
I mean, this is like real time here. One of them's called Tech Talk Vibes, and the other is GeekWire Vibes.
Based on what I know of Mac Miller, we might need to put an explicit warning on this one.
Well, that'll be interesting to see if it does that. All right, we did have to pause just briefly, but I would say that was less than a minute. So let's hear, first off, selection number 1.
Tune in, now it's time for my AI. GeekWire Podcast, we're reaching the sky. Every week, text the vibe we prescribe.
A lot of auto-tune.
Talk about the future, we're inside. GeekWire Podcast, my AI on rotation. Scan your mind's innovation, no hesitation. Pump the brakes on frustration.
Definitely not Mac Miller.
Hit play and let it fly. Tech Talk reaching new highs.
TikTok reaching
Tech Talk
reaching
new highs.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
stunk.
Okay.
That stunk.
All right.
And it was definitely not Mac Miller.
Okay, here's the other option. GeekWire Vibes.
It's my AI on GeekWire time. Tune in, listen up, every line. Tech talk, deep dive, ain't no decline. We keep it sharp, yet always prime.
I'm falling asleep over here.
This is so bad. Well, I think one lesson here is that it can mimic other genres and better than it can hip hop. Because
Okay, well, what else? Is there another?
well, we said Kendrick Lamar. That's a popular artist right now.
So I'm doing this
So
now.
it'll go through the normal disclaimer of saying,
Yeah.
of course we will not mimic Kendrick
Lamar.
but
However, auto replacing Kendrick Lamar with male vocalist, conscious hip hop, West Coast hip hop, trap, and pop rap.
do those words mean anything to you, Taylor?
Most of them. They've got the East Coast, West Coast thing down.
All right, still processing. We got Geek Beats, My AI, and Tech Beats and Rhythms.
Bringing you the tech, the lights. Tune in every week. Get your insights tight, baby. Tune in every week. Get your insights tight, baby. I'm saying geeks, come on and give it a try. Yeah, my AI, baby. I'm saying geeks, come on and give it a try. Yeah, my AI, baby. Yeah.
We talking tech all day. AI brought to play. GeekWire on your way.
I like this a lot better than the Mac Miller.
This is better.
Yeah,
this
that's
was
better. That's a little better.
This was giving 2000s vibes to me. Not quite Kendrick Lamar of 2024, but better.
Yeah.
Better than Mac Miller.
Mac Miller was awful.
Okay, here's number 2.
Turn on the mic, got a tech beat. Talking about AI, that's all fleet. Newest trends and geeky feats. GeekWire tune in every week.
And it's instrumental from there on out.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. Not
based
many
on the lyrics.
on
Based on the
I
lyrics.
kind of like the first one.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, to go back to that, let me just, before we go on here, this is the one that I would pick. And there's specific reasons that I would pick this. Let's go back and listen to the one that I would use.
Okay.
In a world of code and screens, where tech is more than just a dream. My AI. The future's here, it's in the sky. My AI.
Why is the future in the sky for AI?
Makes us reach so high.
Okay. The reason I like this is because of the structure. There's an intro.
Yeah.
You could imagine it fading out as we start the segment.
Okay.
And then at the end of the segment, you would basically come back to what we're hearing now.
Okay.
So it really works well for the purpose. And I like that in part because I wasn't just asking this to create a song. I was asking it to create a jingle for the GeekWire podcast and a segment within the GeekWire podcast. And in that way, this actually represents what a professional jingle producer might have done because they would understand. Like when we had Daniel L.K. Caldwell, the composer, the human composer and musician and artist who created our actual GeekWire podcast theme song that you hear at the beginning, like he created different elements, different tracks, different loops for me because he knew that I would be able to use them in different ways throughout the show. And whether it was on purpose or not, that's what my AI jingle from Suno did.
I like that explanation.
And it seems like the more specific you are with your ask, the better it gets. So instead of just saying, hey, give me something Kendrick Lamar, it's like, I specifically want this type of track, and it gets better as you get better at asking it.
Absolutely. I think that's true. And the neat thing on each of these is you can extend them. So you get one thing and you say, ooh, I like that one. Give me more of that at the end of it or the beginning, or do an outro or an intro.
So I think my favorite was number 1. So can we listen to that one again?
Yeah.
That was in the kind of the Kraftwerk style.
Tell me if this was it.
Tune in.
No, that was definitely not it. That was definitely not it. No, I think it was the first one we listened to. I think it was from this one. Yes.
It kind of has a news broadcast.
Yeah. It's got a newsy feel.
I like this one. It takes a while to get to the...
Yeah, it does.
I had to have fast forward this one earlier, so let's just keep listening. It's a little over a minute 30.
That part's great. Yeah, it's definitely more of what you would think about as it relates to a technology site. So maybe it's a little too cliche.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe we should have the listeners vote on their favorites.
There you go. Hey, email me. Email
Yeah.
me at Todd, Todd at GeekWire.com. Let me know which one you like. And maybe, hey, if you want to try these out yourself and send us some samples of what you would use. Our friend Ken Smith, our former colleague at the newspaper, listened to these and he had a great suggestion. He suggested that we figure out the lyrics that we like and then put it in different genres each time.
Well, that's a great idea. I mean, I like the lyrics of the country song the best.
Yes. So you could take the lyrics of the country song and do it in different genres so it's new and fresh every time. And it actually reminded me, there's a podcast called Stuff You Should Know. And they do that, where it's the same approach, but a different sound to it each time. It's a different way to kind of get something familiar and yet unique. So that was one thought that I had. So you really like, John, what it's called My AI Groove.
I like that one. I like the one you chose, too, the second time I listened to it and then hearing your explanation. I think you're right. I think that would set it up nicely.
Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. I know this was sort of a more light episode, but I appreciate you coming in here. And I've obviously this was my weekend last weekend.
It's really amazing. It really is.
It's addictive. I would say it's more addictive in some ways than ChatGPT because you're hearing something much richer. It's much more creative and open-ended, and it changes. Whereas, reading words on a screen is reading words on a screen, and it's impressive for a while. But I will say the other thing, too, in a couple of these cases, these were real earworms.
Now you're singing My AI.
My AI Day. Yeah. And like the country one especially.
Yeah.
That I had that going in my head for like the next day.
So would you rather work with a human composer over a weekend and craft the My AI, or would you have more fun or a better outcome playing with the software?
I got to tell you, it's been rewarding working with Daniel L.K. Caldwell over the years, and it's been a few years since he's done our theme song. But he did Numbers Geek as well, if I remember correctly. And he really got a sense for what I wanted and the different elements that I was talking about earlier. That said, the flexibility of this and just the ability to get immediate feedback to change your instructions on the fly and have it give you something totally different each time, that's pretty cool.
That's what we hear a lot about these AI models is 24/7, always at your side versus the human expert is only available 8 hours of the day, where these bots are always there all the time.
Yeah, just think about the scheduling of trying to get you wouldn't have been able to do it over the weekend, and you had a little bit of time to play around with it. So
the other thing I kept wondering about was, there are people on different freelance sites who would come up with things like this for you if you were to pay them on like Fiverr or something like that. And gosh, I can only imagine the complications that that's causing, not only competing with those folks, but those folks using something like this to fulfill different assignments that you might get on Fiverr or other freelance marketplaces. That starts to get into a really gray area. Like for my $10 a month Udio subscription, could I basically fake my way through a bunch of composing assignments and music?
Sounds like you have a good business model.
That just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. It feels fraudulent. And so all sorts of questions, but at the same time, fascinating capabilities of the technology. And I think that's kind of what the whole world is about right now in terms of these AI tools.
AI in the sky. Yeah. It's here to stay.
Crazy stuff.
All right, John and Taylor, thank you very much.
Great seeing you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks for listening. Curt Milton edited this episode. Our theme music is by Daniel L.K. Caldwell. For John Cook and Taylor Soper, I'm Todd Bishop. We'll be back soon with a new episode of the GeekWire Podcast.